Evansville, Indiana. It's a city situated along the Ohio River, which is why it's been dubbed the River City. It hosts many historical places. It has museums, a zoo, a place with just over 118,000 people. Every year, Evansville is host to the West Side Nut Club Festival, an event where over 100,000 people line the streets, either to enjoy the parades or just support local food vendors. Vendors that serve up some odd food, such as alligator stew or brain sandwiches. And if you really want to go far, try one of those chocolate-covered grasshoppers. I know, it seems a little bit over the edge, but if you ask the locals, it tastes way better than it sounds. As far as home life, the #1 trade in Evansville, Indiana is manufacturing, but they're also known for manufacturing some other things. Things like drugs. From the outside looking in, you may question why anyone would want to live in Evansville, Indiana, knowing that it's riddled with crime. But for those who live there, it's simply normal life.
January 16th, 1997. The world would make way for Aleah. Beckerle. The place she called home would be Evansville, Indiana, where she would be born to her mother, Kara Darlene Beckerle. When it comes to her father, there's no mention of him. He wasn't around. However, there would be someone who would step in and fill that void. A man who goes by the name of DeMarco Roach. For years, DeMarco Roach would have a relationship with Kara Beckerle. The couple would bring 2 other children into this world together. DeMarco referred to Aleah as his angel, his relief inside of a tumultuous world. The reason for this is because their life wasn't exactly normal. The household was, well, let's just say it wasn't your average home. DeMarco Roach was a guy with an extensive background. He was no stranger to law enforcement. But to make things even worse, neither was her mother. Together, the couple had racked up several charges, but the common denominator in most of the situations was drugs. They were both prone to being in possession of them, so they would often take trips down to the county to deal with that. But although that was a factor, they maintained steadiness. They were monetarily stable. They were able to provide housing and food, so aside from that dark side, things were okay, kind of, because Aleah was someone with special needs. She was someone who was in a wheelchair. She was nonverbal, but she was also prone to seizures. Someone who needed a lot of attention, love, and care. But luckily for Aleah, love is the language of the heart. You don't have to say anything to relay those emotions. It could be a look, a gesture, or something as small as the way you make someone feel that can show your love. Aleah would also have her education in Evansville. She would attend the public school system before ultimately ending up at Harrison High School. While in school, Aleah enjoyed musical toys, outings, and going to amusement parks. She was a big fan of the rides. She was also a fan of Disney. To those who knew and loved her, she was known by her nickname, Lady, someone who was always in a great mood, someone with a courageous smile, a person who was referred to as a joy to be around. By the year of 2016, Aleah would now be 19 years old. At her young age, she was still in the care of her parents, but by now she has also garnered the attention of a lot of people. She was known and loved by everyone in her community, which makes what happens next so harsh. A tragedy would occur that no one saw coming. 19-year-old Aleah Beckerle would go missing without a trace. It would spark an investigation that would last months. And when the smoke cleared, it would leave behind a trail of sad tears, as well as heartbreak. It was something that no one saw coming. July 17th, 2016. Evansville PD would be dispatched to Iowa Street, to the home of Aleah Beckerle. At this time, the authorities are responding to a call about a missing person. A missing person who didn't have a choice to leave on their own.
911.
My sister's missing.
Okay, where are you?
403 Shiloh.
Okay, calm down. I'm having trouble hearing you. 403 Shiloh?
403 East Iowa.
East Iowa. How long has she been gone?
We just woke up and she's gone.
How old is she?
19, but she's disabled.
Okay. What's her name?
Aleah Darling Beckerle.
Aleah Beckerle?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how long she's been gone?
No.
Is her challenge, is it mental or physical?
Both, I think. She can't walk, talk, or anything.
At this point, Aleah's sister would be asked to hand the phone to her mother. At this point in time, her mother is frantic, so the officer would have to ask her to calm down. That way they could get the facts in order.
Hello?
Okay, calm down just a little bit. Ma'am, I understand. There's nothing we can do. Calm down. Calm down. I cannot help you while you're screaming. Okay? Your daughter's told me that she's mentally challenged. I want to know exactly how long it was that somebody didn't see her. When's the last time you saw her?
Last night when we put her to bed.
What time?
Around like 9 o'clock. They were sleeping in the same room.
Okay. Okay. Is she white, black, or Hispanic girl? Is she white, black, or Hispanic?
She's biracial, black and white. I'm gonna throw up.
Just try to calm down, okay?
Somebody came through my back window.
Ma'am.
It took my daughter.
Ma'am, I'm trying to get everybody over there to help you. Now you need to calm down a little bit, okay?
Okay.
I know you're scared. This would scare anybody, but you got to try to calm down and let me help you.
The phone call would continue for a few more minutes, but during the phone call, it would turn odd. Carol would begin accusing someone of taking her daughter, but not only taking her, she was already saying that someone was off violating her. Why would someone think the worst? Maybe she's just panicking, or maybe something else.
They came in my house and took my disabled daughter.
Honey, I know that, but don't think of the worst, okay? Don't think of somebody hurting her. I don't know why they would do it, but you need to try to calm down and not think the worst, okay?
Oh, I'm so scared.
It's just I know you're scared. You've got to be scared.
No, I don't know what to do.
Don't think of those things, okay? You got 2 other kiddos there that are worried about you. You got to take care of them right now. The officer's on the way. They're going to come and talk to you, okay?
The authorities would arrive at the scene, and they would do the normal. They would search the immediate area, looking for any clues that would lead to the whereabouts of Aleah. But when that concluded, they were no closer to finding her. The day would come to a close, and so would the next day. And 4 days in, they still hadn't found her. By now, search parties had been organized, as well as a $1,000 reward announced for any information leading to the whereabouts of Aleah Beckerle. But even though there was both a reward and search parties looking for her, there was still nothing. But by July 21st of 2016, the authorities would seem to catch a break. They would receive a 911 call by a woman who goes by the name of Deborah Wallner. In this phone call, Deborah would detail that she had someone who wanted to confess about what happened to Aleah. Deborah Wallner was someone who was a friend of the family, someone who had even participated in the searches. So, now armed with this information, Evansville PD would go to her home. And when they get there, they find a man who goes by the name of James Martin Jr. When questioned, James would tell the authorities that he took Aleah and that he knew where she was. With that being said, the authorities would cuff him and then take him downtown for questioning. Once at headquarters, he would once again admit to knowing the whereabouts of Aleah. But there's a catch. He doesn't know where she's at, and after hours of interrogation, he would break, but not into a confession. He would admit to the authorities that he had nothing to do with her disappearance. He said that Deborah Wallner, Donna Robertson, and James Wilson Jr. had basically made him confess to it. He says that he was taken to the home of Deborah Wallner. He was then beat by the three of them and forced to admit something he didn't do. Come to find out, James Martin Jr. was telling the truth. He had nothing to do with the disappearance of Aleah, and his confession was forced.
Here's that. I want to know why you only told me you had the girl. Now you're telling me all this other information. So how do you know all the information?
I'm fixing to tell you. He got me recording.
Hurry up. Get to the night they took her.
He said that he took her at 2:30 in the morning on Sunday morning and took her across the bridge in a silver Pontiac that belongs to Morgan Fredo's dad.
Okay, and Marty did this to you because he knew about it, right? You was telling me, so he beat you like this, right?
Yes, Marty beat me up like this because Marty didn't want me to tell you guys nothing.
Okay, thank you.
So, Deborah Wallner, her partner, Donna Robertson, and their acquaintance, James Wilson Jr., would all be arrested and charged for that incident. But by the time they had got them all to headquarters and interviewed them, guess what? They were still no closer to finding Aleah.
I know by now people are wondering, what's the connection? Well, Donna Robertson is the cousin of Kara Beckerle, and Donna Robertson is also the partner of Deborah Wallner. But the last question would be, why would they try and force a confession out of someone who obviously didn't do it? Well, that question is yet to be answered.
July of 2016 would come to a close and greet the beginning of August. And towards the end of August, Aleah's mother would do an interview with Eyewitness News, talking about her daughter's disappearance.
Well, let's just get it over with. I don't want to sit here no longer than I have to. Okay?
Tell us how you're feeling right now. Let's start off with that.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know what I'm feeling. I feel sad all the time. I'm depressed, sad. Then I get excited when I think there's a possibility she's coming home. The excitement goes like 100% plus. And then when my hopes get down, I go to negative 100 plus. So that's a roller coaster. I'm up and down.
Are you awake at night, lying awake at night, restless? I mean, what's going through your head right now?
Yeah, nighttime's the worst. I think about her the most because it's another day gone that we lost, you know, without her. And I just wonder where she is. Is she sleeping? Is she got a cover? You know, is she being taken care of? I know she's not being taken care of like I do, but, you know, where is she? That's all I think all night long.
Please, whoever has Aleah, wherever she may be, if you just know anything, no matter how small you might think it is, if you could just please contact the Evansville Police Department, or if you feel better, you know, you could do the We Tip line, or even yet, you could contact our Facebook page, Bring Aleah Home. But please, just do something. Just please. We want her home. Kara and her sisters and her grandma and her aunts and her uncles, her cousins, we want her. Bring her back home to us. Call.
That interview would conclude, and still, no new information. No tips came in. No one knew where Aleah was at. And this case was just as much as a mystery as it was on day one. Like deja vu, the days of August will continue to trickle away. And before you know it, it's September of 2016. And the authorities are no closer to finding Aleah. But in mid-September, authorities would make a discovery while searching along the woodside. While in the area of Wineback and I-69, they would find something, but they wouldn't say what it was. They would merely say they thought it was connected to the case of Aleah Beckerle. So the media catches word of it, and they immediately rush to the scene. And not long after, people begin to show up.
Just care of the immediate family.
not Aleah.
They said it's an animal.
Kara, what's your reaction?
I mean, I can't help it. I'm happy
that they didn't find Aleah today. It's the best news I've heard.
You said they did not, right?
They did not. It's an animal.
It's an animal.
Yeah.
grave. They searched a shallow grave,
and it was an animal.
How does that make you feel, Kara, that we are
Wonderful.
She's
that she's still alive and she's coming
still
home.
out there?
Yeah.
And she's going to come home.
Yeah.
We're still waiting for her. So who's ever out there who knows anything?
Please.
Did they have her? Please bring her home. It's time. It's time for us to have our baby back.
The number is 812-470-5879.
What did it feel like when he...
questions, I'll just pick her up, please.
What did it feel like when he came out and said family only? Kara, where's Kara? Where's Kara?
I felt, what is this going to be?
Yeah.
What is it going to be? You know.
But he said it's not a human body, it's animal, and
I got
the
the
Lord
cold chills.
answered
I
our
felt
prayers.
coldness just move.
Where do you guys go from here? Where do you turn to now?
Keep praying, keep having faith in the community, the searchers, and that she's going to come home.
And wanting more support, we hope that people will just please come out and help us search, because we still need to search. We need tips. We need tips. We need people to talk. We need people to listen and look.
Somebody knows. Be brave.
Yeah, somebody does know.
When their night concluded, they found nothing leading to the whereabouts of Aleah. In fact, the discovery that they had found was nothing more than mere animal bones. So they were set the case and start from the beginning. And by September 26 of 2016, they would expand their search to the Pike County landfill. But that search would go on for days, even weeks. And by October 25th of 2016, they had found nothing significant. And then, like clockwork, time would continue to elapse. The days would slowly fold into the weeks, month after month. The only sighting of Leah at this point was the sea of missing posters that were now posted throughout the city. And as time moves, 2016 would say farewell. And now it's 2017. January 2017. The month where she would have turned 20 years old. But instead of celebrating her birthday, there was a full-on search for her that was leading to nowhere. January would come to a close, and then February. But by March of 2017, the case would take a drastic turn. March 27th, 2017. A woman who goes by the name of Kathy Murray would be on South Bedford Street, searching through abandoned homes. On that day, Kathy wasn't alone. She was accompanied by a few friends, before they would ultimately end up at 1628 South Bedford Street. The reason for being there is that her and her friends were searching abandoned homes for anything that may be valuable. Anything that her and her friends could sell for profit. While searching these abandoned homes, they would come to this one. Kathy's friends would remain outside, and they would examine the exterior. However, Kathy would go inside of the home alone. She would rummage through the bottom floor of the home before making her way to the stairs. But when she was on her way up, she began smelling a foul odor. Something that smelled like bleach, but it was also accompanied by something that smelled putrid. So instead of going all the way upstairs, she would follow her nose. This would lead her to a back bedroom on the lower level. Inside of this room, it was covered in trash, a couple of mattresses, and also a pile of women and children's clothing. Kathy Murray would make her way to the set of mattresses, and in between those mattresses, she would discover a body. This body was in a very bad state, but one thing she noticed was that the lower portion of the clothing was missing. It was very clear that whoever this was here for a while. The body itself was even riddled with bugs. After discovering this, she would back out of the home and immediately contact the authorities. The body found on that night would be later positively identified as Aleah Beckerle.
Now, Aleah's body was found yesterday in a home on South Bedford Avenue. The coroner then confirming this morning that body was Aleah's.
And of course, 44 News reporter Chelsea Kerbler has been reporting on this story since it broke and has been following all the developments. And Chelsea, you have a little bit of context as to what's led us up to this point.
Ever since Aleah had gone missing back in July, the community just had outpouring support for the family. They actually started some searches on their own about 2 blocks from the home here on East Iowa Street down at Iowa and Garvin. They were going out every day for a few weeks, and then they kind of started on the weekends. They were actually responsible for bringing Texas EquiSearch here. They've kind of helped with big profile cases like the Kaylee Anthony case down in Florida. And then we saw in September there was a large police presence one night down on Weinbach, just under the I-69 overpass, of possible remains that were found. People were thinking it was Aleah's body, but it ended up just being animal remains that were found. And then we have later in September the FBI searching a Pike County landfill. We don't know really what led them there. That kind of took place for a few weeks until October, and then they stopped searching that Pike County landfill, and really nothing turned up from that, and we haven't really had many searches since then. And then again today at the press conference, real quick, EPD just saying that this is really a new beginning. This is not a missing persons case anymore. This is now a really murder investigation. They're not calling it a homicide until they get more details, but they're just asking anyone with information on what could have happened to Aleah Beckerle to call the We Tip hotline. I actually talked with the first neighbor that ever put the flowers out in front of the house. There's quite an array right now of flowers and stuffed animals. That neighbor said she was doing that strictly for Aleah and not for the family at all. Of course, many neighbors having their suspicions on what happened, but at this point, EPD says there are no suspects in this case. However, she said she left the flowers here on the 400 block of Iowa Street at Aleah's house because this is how she wants to remember Aleah. She says she always remembers her being here smiling. She didn't want to go to that South Bedford home where Aleah's body was found Monday night.
The authorities are now officially tasked with a homicide investigation when they had no clues, when it was only just a disappearance. With this being the case, it seemed as if this would be a hard road, but they have to do it. So they start back over again, interviewing family and friends. 2 days into the investigation, the authorities would announce that they had a suspect in custody. Authorities would announce the arrest of 24-year-old Terrence Roach. Somehow the interrogations had led to him, and when he was interrogated, he would tell it all. The next question is, what is Terrence Roach's connection to Aleah? Well, Terrence Roach was the son of DeMarco Roach, who happened to be the boyfriend of Kara Beckerle, the mother of Aleah. Terrence Roach says that on the evening of June 16th of 2016, he was smoking K2. While smoking, he got the idea to go to 403 East Iowa Street, located in Evansville, Indiana, the home of Aleah. He would then go through her window. Once inside, he would snatch Aleah and take her out of the window, and then carry her to his truck, where he then would drive her to the abandoned building. Once there, he would violate her, and then he would leave her there. He told the authorities that the motive behind this was because his father had been arrested inside of the home of Kara. In June of 2016, DeMarco Roach was on a drug binge and losing his mind. He was so paranoid that one day he let off a shot inside of Kara's home, which would lead to them calling the authorities. He would then be taken to jail. So Terrence says that in retaliation for Kara calling the authorities, he decided to kidnap Aleah. But while doing so, he says that the plan was never to harm her. He said that his plan was to keep her for a few days and then return her. But she died on her own. He was adamant that it wasn't by his hands. He would also tell the authorities that when he violated her, she had already passed away, meaning she was already deceased when he had his way with her. When his confession was over, he would be booked into the local jail, and he would be charged with criminal confinement, as well as the murder of Aleah Beckerle. But despite giving a full-on confession, when he showed up to arraignment, he would plead not guilty to the charges. The trial of Terrence Roach would go on for a period of time, before coming to a conclusion. Both the defense and the prosecution have now rested their case. During the trial, Terrence Roach was asked if he wanted to take the stand. He declined. The jury was now set for deliberation, and they would come to a verdict. When it comes to the charges of criminal confinement, the court finds him guilty. When it comes to the charges of abuse of a body, the jury finds him guilty. Terrence Roach was also facing murder in the first, second, and third degree, but when the jury returned that verdict, he would be found not guilty, which means that the court decided he wasn't the person responsible for Aleah's untimely passing. Terrence Roach would ultimately receive a sentence of 17 years, and with parole, he may even be out before that. What happened to 19-year-old Aleah Beckerle is truly tragic. And to add insult to injury, this was someone who was essentially her stepbrother. Police announced that they would no longer be looking for another suspect in this case, and that it's basically closed, meaning the EPD will not reopen the case. They believed that they had the right guy, but the charges just didn't stick. So they're just facing the consequence. A lot of people in the town of Evansville, Indiana, believe that this full story hasn't been told, because during the court process, they couldn't find one thing linking Terrence Roach to the murder of Aleah. Some people even believe he wasn't the one who ended her life, and they're pointing the finger at her parents. But for now, that's all just speculation, rumors that have surfaced over the years. I'm not here to speak on that because there just isn't anything tangible. I will say that I don't believe this story has been told either. I truly believe that it's shrouded in mystery, and that Aleah Beckerle's full story hasn't come to the light. It's all around just a sad situation. Rest in peace, Aleah Beckerle. Thank you for being a light for others.
You know, I'm satisfied. I really am. I think the jury did the right thing, got the right verdict. I really do. I think they followed the evidence. I've said this before. It was a hard-working jury. They deliberated longer than it took to put the evidence in. They asked more questions than any jury that I've ever had. They were pointed questions, well-thought-out questions. And when I got involved in representing Terrence, you know, I look at his statements, his confessions, if you will, that, you know, it only took him 9 hours to get them without an attorney being present. And you look at the facts, and they just don't fit. Something ain't right. And yeah, I will say that the Evansville Police Department did a textbook job in investigating this case. Tony Walker, who's a crime scene technician, you know, by the book, did a heck of a job. And yet they've got all this information, and then they try and twist it to match it up to what Terrence told them. And you know, Terrence is a simple-minded man. Special ed in school, Southwestern behavioral treatment until he was 18 and voluntarily terminated it. I just felt like they pulled the plug on it, you know, and I really, I thought it to be remarkable that they never seemed, there are two things, I guess, really. The fact, they made this statement, and I saw in the newspaper today that the grandmother made a statement. They had this nutrition, this food that would be fed through a tube. And it is true that they put feeding her through a tube in, I think, December or February. But it's also true through our research that that same food or material can be, I mean, it's a paste. You can, you know, take it orally. But I always thought it was remarkable, whether she stopped taking it in February or they were still giving it to her, that somebody on the day she's reported missing takes it from inside the house, puts it on the porch, and the next day they find it in the trash. Common sense tells you somebody in that house knew she wasn't coming back.
you know, that kind of raises the question of, well, if Terrence didn't do it, who did it? I mean, do you think that there could be somebody else out there that's responsible? It wasn't your client.
You know, I suppose it doesn't make a lot of difference what I think. There's a lot of people in the community have their own opinions. If you look at any of these Facebook sites, their voice. I think Leah Beckerle died in her home. That's what I think. I don't think she was abducted in her lifetime. I think she passed away, and then whatever happened after that happened after that. But when you report a disappearance and attract all of the media attention, I mean, you know, people come from all, you know, different places. Not only was this a regional kind of a news event, it probably hit spots in the nation. Once you tell that kind of story, you can't take it back. You know, it's not real easy to come in and say, oops, I was just teasing. So, I don't know. I mean, that's not my job to find out, really. That's law enforcement. They said they're not going to do anything. So, I don't know.